John Paulamy here of the Actionable Intelligence Alert. Today is Monday, July 18th, and today I want to talk to everyone about a company that I hold in my portfolio. The name of the company, I'll try to pronounce it, it's Romanian, but it's pronounced Fondul Propritatea. So translated, that means property fund in Romanian. So basically, this security is a closed-end fund, which means it has a set amount of shares that were issued. And what it is basically is a fund created by the Romanian government that is used to compensate people that had property stolen from them by the communists during the communist regime. So basically, back in 2005, the government of Romania created this fund under special legislation, inserted a bunch of holdings of assets, specifically shares in state-owned enterprises like electric and gas utilities, airport concessions, things of this nature. It then distributed shares to people as a way to compensate them for property that was stolen from them by the communists. Subsequent to that, shares were listed on the Bucharest Stock Exchange, and then they were able to be revalued or given a value, and people could sell them if they chose to do that. Since then, quite a few foreign investors have got involved and bought shares in the open market, and the shares have been dual listed in London as a way to get additional liquidity. Now, the reason that I'm talking about this today is because the shares have been significantly undervalued for several years. In fact, the current price is about 30% less than the value of the assets in the fund. So what that basically means is if you bought the fund today at its current share price, you would be getting $1 worth of assets for about 70 cents. So this is a pretty good deal. Now the reason why I'm talking about it and excited about it is because the company management, or the management of the fund, is been instructed by majority shareholders to close the gap between the net asset value and the market price of the securities. Obviously, if you own a lot of shares and you're a big shareholder, you bought it because it's significantly undervalued, and you want that undervaluation to be taken care of by buying back shares. And that's what the management's been doing. Over time, they've had over 6 buybacks. They've bought back millions and millions of shares, and yet the share price continues to stay significantly lower than the net asset value of all of the underlying securities that the fund holds. So recently, the fund has suspended the share buyback, and they are going to do what's called a tender offer. And a tender offer means that the management will come out and say, we're going to buy this amount of shares for this price up until this date. So, for example, say there were 1,000 shares outstanding. They might come out and say, we're going to buy up to 500 shares for a certain price to this date. And the expectation is that the shares will be bought at a price significantly higher or substantially higher than the current market price, and that is a way to close the valuation gap between the net asset value and the current market price. So this should be happening. There should be an announcement in the next 2 weeks or so. We have seen the share price slowly creep up since the company announced that they suspended the share repurchase program in order to do the tender offer. Considering the fact that the shares are still 30% cheaper than the net asset value of the shares, I expect a significant offering price by the management. Now, the other thing to keep in mind about this is that the underlying assets of the fund, only about 30% of them are publicly traded. So there are quite a few assets in the fund that are not publicly traded entities, and I would suggest that they are significantly undervalued. There's no way to actually put a fair market price on some of the assets, and we're not talking about, assets that aren't valuable. These are transmission lines, nuclear power plants, gas pipelines, things of this nature. So quite a bit of the value in this entity is still locked up. The one good thing I like about this is that a major hedge fund manager by the name of Paul Singer, his fund, I believe it's called Elliott Associates, is one of the major shareholders of this fund, and they have really been pushing to get the net asset value and the market price, that gap, closed up. So I believe he's one of the main instigators to get this done. So we're basically getting a free ride on his coattails. Based on the press release I saw that announced the tender offer, I expect that it'll be coming out, information will be coming out about it in the next week or so. And like I said before, the share price has been moving up in anticipation of this. The smart money has seen what's going to happen. It's going to be a guaranteed layup. I mean, this isn't going to be a double or even a 50% gain, but it's going to be probably in the range of 15 to 20%, maybe 30%. And I still like the company long term, even because of the optionality, as I mentioned before, of the assets that are held in there that aren't, in my view, being valued correctly or having a medium to be valued correctly. So we'll see what happens. I think this is one of those that's kind of a layup. Somebody could put some money into it. You know that they're going to have a tender offer. You know it's going to be higher than the current share price. So you go ahead and buy it now, and if you're just inclined, you could get even a short-term gain out of this. So remains to be seen what the actual offer will be. It'll be interesting to see, but we've been a holder of this for quite a long time, and we're certainly looking forward to getting paid off. I will say that in the interim, we've held it for about a little bit over a year, and we have collected about a 5 or 6% dividend, so we have been getting paid to wait. And as I have mentioned on the blog before, I am pretty excited about what's going on in the Romanian economy. It's growing about 4% a year, which is substantially higher than most of the economies in Europe. So I think that we have a short-term gain coming up here in this stock, and also I think that the management is slowly but surely unlocking the long-term value and getting to the valuation of the optionality of the assets that are held inside the fund. So take a look at this if you're interested. I've got quite a few shares, and we're kind of getting to the end where we're going to get paid off finally. So that's it for this time. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.